Johnson was born in Hayward, California on May 2, 1972, the son of Otta Johnson, née Mavia, born 1948, and former professional wrestler Rocky Johnson, born Wade Douglas Bulls, 1944-2020. Growing up, Johnson lived briefly in Grey Lynn in Auckland, New Zealand with his mother's family, where he played rugby and attended Richmond Road Primary School before returning to the U.S. Johnson's father was a black Nova Scotian with a small amount of Irish ancestry. His mother is Samoan. His father and tag team partner Tony Atlas were the first black tag team champions in WWE history, in 1983. His mother is the adopted daughter of Peter Mavia, who was also a professional wrestler. Johnson's maternal grandmother Leah was the first female pro wrestling promoter, taking over Polynesian Pacific Pro Wrestling after her husband's death in 1982 and managing it until 1988. Through his maternal grandfather Mavia, Johnson is a non-blood relative to the Anoa wrestling family. In 2008, Johnson inducted his father and grandfather into the WWE Hall of Fame. Johnson attended Montclair Elementary School in Charlotte, North Carolina before moving to Hamden, Connecticut, where he attended Shepherd Glen Elementary School and then Hamden Middle School. Johnson attended President William McKinley High School in Honolulu and then Glencliff High School and McGavick High School, both in Nashville, and then Freedom High School in Bethlehem Township in the Lehigh Valley, where he graduated in 1990. At Freedom High School in the Lehigh Valley, Johnson initially struggled and was drawn into a culture of conflict and petty crime. Before the age of 17, he was arrested multiple times for fighting, theft, and check fraud and was suspended 2 weeks for fighting. The local newspaper later described him as a troubled teenager with a history of run-ins with police. Freedom High School football coach Jody Quick, however, saw athletic potential in Johnson, and recruited him to join Freedom's football team, where he played defensive tackle. The experience proved the beginning of a personal transformation for Johnson. My thought process started to change. That's when I started thinking about goals and what I wanted to accomplish, he has since said about his high school football experience. In addition to playing football at Freedom High School, Johnson also was a member of the school's track and field and wrestling teams. Like the school's football team, its track and field and wrestling teams competed in the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference, EPC, a high school athletic conference known for being among the nation's best. The EPC's wrestling programs have been ranked best in the nation by Win magazine and have been described as among the nation's best in the sport for nearly 3 decades, and Johnson quickly found himself facing some of the nation's most accomplished high school wrestlers. By his senior year at Freedom High School, Johnson had only played 2 years of high school football, but the fact that he had excelled on a team in an elite high school athletic division known nationally for producing a long list of professional and Olympic-level athletes, including future NFL stars Andre Reed, Saquon Barkley, Kaiser White, and others, drew the attention of NCAA Division I collegiate programs. College football recruiters ranked Johnson as one of the top 10 high school defensive tackles in the nation. He opted to accept a full athletic scholarship offer from the University of Miami, whose football program was then one of the best in the nation. As he did in high school in Pennsylvania, Johnson continued to play defensive tackle at the University of Miami. In his freshman year there, he was a member of Miami's 1991 national championship team. In his 4 years playing for the University of Miami team, however, Johnson found himself behind elite players on the depth chart, including future NFL star and Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee Warren Sapp, and appeared mostly in backup roles. In 1995, Johnson graduated from the University of Miami with a Bachelor of General Studies and a dual major in criminology and physiology. In addition to being a member of the University of Miami's top-tier collegiate football team, Johnson also was one of the University of Miami's most prolific student speakers in the Miami area community, frequently delivering positive messages about his own struggles and encouraging them to remain in school and avoid the dangers of drug use. Following his May 1995 graduation from the University of Miami, Johnson was signed by the Calgary Stampeders of the Canadian Football League. Calgary moved Johnson from defensive tackle, the position he had played on the high school and collegiate levels, to linebacker. He was assigned to Calgary's practice roster, but was cut 2 months into Calgary's 1995 season. After being cut by Calgary, Johnson began his professional wrestling career the following year, in 1996. Veteran wrestler Pat Patterson secured several tryout matches for Johnson with the World Wrestling Federation (WWF) in 1996. Wrestling at first under his real name, Johnson defeated the Brooklyn Brawler at a house show on March 10 and lost matches to Chris Candido and Owen Hart. After wrestling at Jerry Lawler's United States Wrestling Association under the name Flex Cabana and winning the USWA Tag Team Championship twice with his partner Bart Sawyer in the summer of 1996, Johnson was signed to a WWF contract. He received additional training from Tom Pritchard, alongside Akim Albrecht and Mark Henry. Johnson made his WWF debut as Rocky Maivia, a combination of his father and grandfather's ring names, although his real name was acknowledged by the announcers. He was initially reluctant to take this ring name but was persuaded by Vince McMahon and Jim Ross. He was given the nickname, the Blue Chipper, and to play up his lineage, he was hyped as the WWF's first third-generation wrestler. Maivia, a clean-cut face character, was pushed heavily from the start despite his wrestling inexperience. He debuted on Monday Night Raw as a member of Marc Mero's entourage on November 4, 1996. His first match came at Survivor Series, on November 17, 1996 in an 8-man elimination tag match. He was the sole survivor and eliminated the final two members of the opposing team, Crush and Goldust. On February 13, 1997, he won the Intercontinental Championship from Hunter Hearst Helmsley on Monday Night Raw. Maivia then successfully defended the title against Helmsley at In Your House 13, Final 4. Johnson's first WrestleMania match came at WrestleMania 13 on March 23, 1997, where he was victorious in his Intercontinental Championship defense against the Sultan. WWF fans started to reject his character and push from the company. He defeated Bret Hart by disqualification in a title defense on the March 31 episode of Raw is War. Behind the scenes, Hart mentored Johnson for his first year in WWF and refused to be booked to take the title from him. On April 20, at In Your House 14, Revenge of the Taker, he lost to Savio Vega by countout but retained the title. Audiences became increasingly hostile toward Maivia, with chants of "Die, Rocky, Die," and "Rocky sucks" being heard during his matches. After losing the Intercontinental Championship to Owen Hart on the April 28, 1997 episode of Raw is War and suffering a legitimate knee injury in a match against Mankind, Maivia returned in August 1997 and turned heel for the first time in his career by lashing out at fans who had been booing him. And joining Farouk, D'Lo Brown and Kama in the stable called the Nation of Domination. He then refused to acknowledge the Rocky Maivia name, instead referring to himself in the third person as The Rock, though he would still be billed as The Rock, Rocky Maivia until 1998. The Rock would then regularly insult the audience, WWF performers, and interviewers in his promos. At D-Generation X, In Your House on December 7, 1997, Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated The Rock in under 6 minutes to retain the Intercontinental Championship. The next night on Raw is War, Austin was ordered by Mr. McMahon to defend the title in a rematch, but forfeited it to The Rock instead, handing him the title belt before hitting him with the Stone Cold Stunner. The Rock feuded with Austin and Ken Shamrock through the end of 1997 and beginning of 1998. On January 19, 1998, at the Royal Rumble, The Rock defeated Shamrock by disqualification to retain the Intercontinental title. Later that night, he entered the Royal Rumble match and lasted until the final two before he was eliminated by Stone Cold Steve Austin. On March 29, at WrestleMania 14, he defeated Shamrock by disqualification once again to retain the title. The next night, on Raw is War, The Rock debuted a new Intercontinental Championship design and would later overthrow Farouk as leader of the Nation of Domination to spark a feud between the two. He then successfully defended the Intercontinental title against Farouk at Over the Edge, In Your House on May 31. The stable would then refer to themselves as simply, The Nation. The Rock and The Nation then feuded with Triple H and D-Generation X, with the two stable leaders first meeting in the quarterfinal of the 1998 King of the Ring tournament, which The Rock won. At King of the Ring, The Rock defeated Dan Severn in the semifinal match and lost to rival Ken Shamrock in the final. The Rock then resumed his feud with Triple H, as the two had a 2 out of 3 falls match at Fully Loaded, in your house for the Intercontinental title, which The Rock retained in controversial fashion.